All right, ready to dive into the crypto market.
Always ready.
Today, we're zeroing in on three big players making some serious moves: Bitcoin, Cardano, and Solana.
Definitely some interesting trends emerging right now.
Exactly. We'll break down what's driving those price swings and what it all means for the future. So if you're into crypto, you're in the right place.
Couldn't agree more. It's a fascinating time for the crypto space.
Let's jump right in with Bitcoin. It just blasted past $75,000.
A new all-time high.
Yeah, wild, right? But I'm seeing all this talk about the RSI.
The relative strength index?
Right, being in overbought territory. And then there's this flattening at the top pattern on the price charts. Some people are saying it's a classic warning sign.
Yeah, in traditional markets, that pattern often points to a potential price drop, a reversal. But
Sure.
Bitcoin, well, Bitcoin has a history of kind of doing its own thing.
So you're saying even though Bitcoin is considered overbought, it might actually be a good thing?
It might be. Here's why. Historically, when Bitcoin's RSI stays above 70, that overbought level, it's often led to continued growth, not crashes.
Interesting. So it's not the typical warning sign it would be for other assets.
Exactly.
Oh.
And there's another factor we can't ignore. Strong buying volume.
So real money flowing into Bitcoin, not just hype.
It seems that way. This isn't just a quick pump and dump.
Got it. So what should we be watching for? Price levels? I mean, to see if this trend keeps going.
Well, if Bitcoin holds above $70,000, that's a very bullish sign. $69,000 is a key support level to watch.
Okay, so if it drops below that, it could mean trouble.
It could signal a weakening trend, but if the buying stays strong,
We could see even higher prices.
potentially, yeah, $78,000 or even higher.
Right, Bitcoin's definitely one to watch. Let's shift gears to Cardano.
Yeah.
It's been kind of quiet, but now it's finally waking up.
It really is, showing its strongest growth since February.
Finally broke through that resistance zone we've been talking about.
Yeah, that $35 to 36 cent zone was stubborn.
What's interesting is the strong volume behind this breakout.
Right, which suggests this isn't just a random spike.
So what's driving Cardano's comeback, besides just price action, I mean?
Well, investor sentiment is definitely positive right now.
I'm hearing a lot of buzz about Cardano's network upgrades.
Absolutely. That's playing a role. Things like the recent Hydra upgrade. It's a big deal for Cardano's scalability.
And it's attracting more projects to its ecosystem.
Exactly. That's how technical advancements can impact price. And then from a technical analysis standpoint,
Go on.
well, ADA, Cardano's token, is now trading above its 50, 100, and 200-day moving averages.
Well, that's interesting.
It is. It's a strong sign that this could be the start of a real long-term uptrend.
Yeah, Cardano has that reputation for being slow and steady.
Right.
But maybe that patience is paying off.
Could be. However,
Uh,
we do have to acknowledge that Cardano's RSI.
uh-oh. Is it getting into overbought territory too?
It is. Similar to Bitcoin.
So even with all this good news, there's still reason for caution. Could this upward trend be coming to an end?
Well, ADA might consolidate its gains before moving higher.
What does that mean exactly?
Basically, we might see a period of sideways trading.
Okay, before the next big move.
Right. And there are key levels to watch.
Which are?
If ADA holds above $0.40, the outlook remains bullish. But if it drops below that,
It could retest that $1.35 support zone.
exactly.
Right.
So Cardano's showing promise, but it might not be a straight shot up.
Got it. So we've got Bitcoin potentially continuing its climb, Cardano maybe taking a breather before its next move. Now let's talk about Solana. It just blew past $200.
Yeah, that's a big psychological barrier to break.
Why is that such a big deal?
Well, it opens the door for Solana to potentially hit a new all-time high.
If this momentum keeps up, you mean?
Exactly. And one interesting thing driving this rally is the increased network activity,
Really? Where are we seeing that?
especially in the meme coin sector.
Meme coins, huh? For those who aren't familiar, can you explain what those are?
Sure. Meme coins are cryptocurrencies that often start as, well, jokes.
Like internet trends.
Right. But they can gain serious value through online communities and social media hype. And Solana has become a popular platform for these meme coins because of its speed and low fees.
Makes sense. They're ideal for that fast-paced trading that goes on with meme coins.
Yeah.
So Solana's not just attracting serious DeFi projects.
Oh.
It's also becoming the go-to place for the more, shall we say, light-hearted side of
I
crypto.
like that. Light-hearted.
So it's kind of ironic.
How so?
Well, Solana is known for its super fast transactions and low fees, compared to something like Bitcoin, at least.
Oh, absolutely.
But now it's also attracting those meme coins, which some people might see as I don't know, frivolous.
Yeah, I see what you mean. But it shows how diverse Solana's network activity is.
And that it can handle tons of transactions.
Right.
So Solana is attracting both the serious and the not so serious. It's the best of both worlds. Where could it go from here? Could it actually hit a new all-time high?
It's definitely possible. If Solana breaks through the next resistance level, around $260.
That all-time high of $260 is within reach.
Right. And $200 is now acting as a pretty strong support level. But we do need to acknowledge that Solana's RSI.
Let me guess. Above 70.
It is overbought conditions again.
So even though Solana is doing great,
Still that note of caution.
right, because sustained trading volume and network activity are crucial for continued growth, we need to see if this surge is driven by real long-term interests.
I agree. It's important to see if this momentum is sustainable.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit. Let's talk about something that often gets overshadowed by all the excitement of price movements.
Yeah.
Real-world adoption. I mean, for any of these cryptocurrencies to truly succeed, they need to become more than just digital assets.
I completely agree.
People need to be using them for everyday transactions, for real-world stuff. How are Bitcoin, Cardano, and Solana doing on that front?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Price is only one part of the story. Real-world adoption is essential for any cryptocurrency to succeed in the long run. And we're already seeing signs of this happening with all three. But each one is taking a slightly different approach.
Okay, let's break that down. Where are we seeing real-world adoption happening for each of these cryptos?
Well, let's start with Bitcoin. It's definitely the most well-known and widely accepted cryptocurrency. You can use it to buy goods and services at a growing number of businesses, both online and in physical stores.
It's funny you say that. I actually used Bitcoin to buy a latte at a coffee shop the other day.
Really?
Yeah, it felt very futuristic, even though it did take a little longer than just using my credit card.
That's awesome. And, it highlights both the progress and the challenges of real-world Bitcoin adoption. We even see countries like El Salvador adopting Bitcoin as legal tender. But those slow transaction speeds and sometimes high fees can be a hurdle for everyday purchases, like your latte, for example.
Right, that makes sense. So while Bitcoin might be gaining traction as a store of value, maybe it's not quite ready to be your go-to for everyday spending just yet.
You got it. Now, Cardano's taking a slightly different path. It's focused on building a really strong and secure platform for decentralized applications, what we call dApps. And this includes things like financial services, supply chain management, even voting systems.
So Cardano is aiming to be the foundation for a more decentralized future, less about buying coffee and more about building new systems from the ground up.
That's a great way to put it. By focusing on real-world use cases and partnering with governments and organizations, Cardano is trying to drive adoption through utility, not just speculation.
Interesting. It's a different approach than Bitcoin's. What about Solana? How is it approaching this whole real-world adoption thing?
Solana, with its incredible speed and low fees, it's becoming very popular with developers building those dApps we talked about. We're seeing a lot of growth in areas like DeFi, NFTs, and gaming.
So Solana is attracting developers and building a vibrant ecosystem. But are we seeing real-world use cases beyond just the crypto space? Is it being used for things that everyday people are interacting with?
It's still early days, but we are seeing some interesting real-world applications pop up. For example, some companies are using Solana for micropayments and loyalty programs.
Okay, I can see how Solana speed and low fees would be perfect for that.
Exactly. Those tiny transactions.
Yeah.
They need to be processed quickly and
Yes.
cheaply, and Solana excels at that.
Cool. So each of these cryptos is finding its own way to gain real-world traction. But let's be real. They all face a common challenge: regulation. Governments are still trying to figure out how to approach crypto, and their decisions could have a huge impact on the future of Bitcoin, Cardano, and Solana. What kind of impact are we talking about?
Well, regulation is kind of like a double-edged sword. On one hand, clear and sensible regulations can actually be a good thing.
How so?
Well, they can create trust and legitimacy, which could attract more institutional investors.
Oh, I see, like big financial players. And that could lead to greater stability in the market.
Exactly, and potentially wider adoption by everyday people. But, on the other hand, if regulations are too restrictive,
That could stifle innovation and hurt the entire crypto industry.
right, it's a tough balance, and governments are still grappling with it.
So it's a waiting game to see how it all plays out, but it's clear that regulation is a major factor to consider. Now, before we move on, let's talk about something else that's constantly evolving: the technology itself. The crypto world is all about innovation. What are some of the key developments we should be keeping an eye on? What's on the horizon for these three cryptos?
Great question. The crypto world never sleeps. For Bitcoin, a major area of focus is improving its scalability and reducing those transaction fees we talked about.
Mm.
Technologies like the Lightning Network are being developed to tackle those challenges head-on.
So making Bitcoin more practical for everyday use.
Exactly. More like what you were hoping for with your latte purchase.
Yeah. And what about Cardano? What's cooking in its world?
Well, Cardano is constantly developing its platform, focusing on improving its smart contract functionality and expanding that ecosystem of dApps.
So making Cardano even more powerful and versatile. Got it. And Solana? What's it up to? Always pushing the boundaries, I bet.
You bet. Solana is all about speed and scalability. They're working on new technologies to handle even more transactions per second and to reduce latency even further.
It's mind-blowing how fast this technology is moving, but with all this progress, are there any potential downsides? Any risks we should be aware of?
Of course, with any new technology, there are always risks. One thing to keep in mind is that this rapid pace of development can sometimes lead to security vulnerabilities.
Ah, that makes sense.
Hackers are always looking for weaknesses, so security is a top priority for all three platforms.
So it's important to be aware of those risks and do your own research before investing.
Absolutely.
And remember, this is still a relatively young and volatile market. Prices can swing wildly.
Definitely. And there's always the risk of scams and fraud.
Right. So invest wisely, folks. Never invest more than you can afford to lose. All right, we've covered a lot of ground here, exploring the world of Bitcoin, Cardano, and Solana. We looked at their price action, adoption progress, the regulatory landscape, and those exciting technological advancements. But before we move on, I want to leave you with this. The true potential of these cryptocurrencies lies not just in their price, but in their ability to change our world in ways we can only just start to imagine. And we'll delve deeper into those possibilities in our next segment.
Looking forward to it. Back again for more crypto talk.
Ready to dive deeper.
We talked about real-world adoption in the last segment, how these cryptos are actually being used.
Right, beyond just the trading and speculation.
Exactly. But now I'm thinking bigger picture. What kind of future could these cryptocurrencies help create?
Yeah, what's the potential impact here?
Well, imagine a world where financial services are more accessible, more transparent, more equitable. A world where you have more control over your own data and assets, supply chains that are more efficient and secure, and a world where innovation can thrive without being held back by those old traditional systems.
Sounds pretty utopian.
It does, doesn't it? But it's not as crazy as it might sound.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. How do we get from here to there?
Well, let's take Bitcoin, for example. It's often called digital gold, right?
I've heard that.
And for good reason. It's decentralized.
Yeah.
And it could be a hedge against inflation.
A store of value.
Right. And that's especially important in places with unstable currencies or where people don't have easy access to banks.
So Bitcoin could be a game changer for those communities.
It could give them more financial freedom and control.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, what about Cardano? It's all about building a more sustainable and inclusive future.
I like that.
It's focused on governance and transparency. It could really shake things up. Think about voting systems, supply chains, all kinds of possibilities.
So Cardano is looking beyond just the tech itself.
Yeah. It's about using that tech to build a better world. And then you've got Solana with its speed and scalability. It could revolutionize things like decentralized finance and gaming.
I can see that.
Imagine practically instant transactions with almost no fees. That's the future Solana's working towards.
Okay, I'm getting excited now. But let's be real for a second. What about the challenges?
Oh, there are definitely challenges.
What are some of the roadblocks that could hold these cryptocurrencies back?
Well, one big one is scalability. For crypto to go mainstream, it needs to handle huge volumes of transactions quickly and efficiently.
That's a lot of transactions.
It is. Think about all the financial activity happening around the world every minute. Crypto needs to be able to keep up. And then there's security.
Can't forget about that. We've seen some pretty big hacks and scams.
Right. And as crypto becomes more popular, it becomes a bigger target. So investing in strong security measures is absolutely critical. And educating people about how to protect themselves. It's like anything else online. You need to be smart and take precautions.
Makes sense. And of course, there's the whole regulatory landscape.
Ah, yes. Regulation. It's a big one.
Governments are still figuring out what to do with crypto.
And their decisions could have a major impact. It's a delicate balance between encouraging innovation and protecting people.
Right. It's a tough one to navigate. And what about the environmental impact? I've heard some concerns about that, especially with Bitcoin.
Yeah, the energy consumption of Bitcoin mining has been a hot topic, and rightfully so. If crypto is going to be a part of our future, it needs to be sustainable.
So finding more energy efficient ways to mine and operate these networks is key.
Absolutely, and a lot of smart people are working on it. There's a lot of research and development going into more eco-friendly approaches. So we've talked about the potential, the challenges, and the uncertainties. But stepping back for a moment, what do you think is the real significance of all of this? What does it all mean in the grand scheme of things?
That's a big question.
It is. But I think we're seeing a fundamental shift in how we think about money, value, and trust. These decentralized systems, they challenge the traditional ways of doing things. And while there will be bumps in the road, I'm optimistic. I think crypto is going to play a bigger and bigger role in shaping the future, a more inclusive, innovative, and decentralized future.
I like the sound of that. But what about for the average person who's maybe just starting to learn about crypto? What are the most important things to keep in mind?
Well, first of all, remember that this is still a relatively new space. It's constantly evolving. There are risks involved. So do your research, understand the technology, and don't invest more than you can afford to lose.
Basically, don't get caught up in the hype.
Exactly. Stay level-headed. And secondly, stay informed. Things change quickly in the crypto world. Keep up with the latest news, developments, and regulations. There are tons of resources out there to help you.
So learn as you go.
Yes. And finally, remember that crypto is about more than just making money. It's about technology, innovation, and the potential to create a better world. Think about the big picture. How do you want to be a part of it?
That's a great point. It's about more than just the price of Bitcoin. It's about the potential impact. All right, listeners, we've explored the potential of Bitcoin, Cardano, and Solana. We've talked about the challenges and the opportunities. Now let's move on to our final segment. We'll wrap up our deep dive and leave you with some final food for thought.
All right, welcome back to our Crypto Deep Dive. We've explored price trends, real-world adoption, the regulatory landscape, even those cool technological advancements happening with Bitcoin, Cardano, and Solana.
It's been quite a journey. We've covered a lot of ground, for sure. But in this final segment, I want to shift gears a little. I want to talk about the long-term implications of all this. We touched on their potential, but what does it all really mean, like in the grand scheme of things?
I love that question. Just imagine a world where financial services are truly accessible to everyone, transparent, equitable, a world where you have complete control over your data, your assets, supply chains that are super efficient and secure, and innovation. It flourishes without those old constraints. That's the kind of future we're talking about, the kind of future cryptocurrencies could help us build.
It all sounds incredible, but how do we actually get there? From where we are now to that kind of world seems like a huge leap.
It is a big leap,
Yeah.
but it's not as impossible as it might seem. Cryptocurrencies are changing how we think about money, value, trust. They're decentralized, which means they're not controlled by any single entity, no government, no bank, and that opens up a world of possibilities.
Okay, I can see how that could be disruptive, but can you give me some real-world examples? How could these cryptocurrencies actually make those changes happen?
Absolutely. Let's start with Bitcoin. People call it digital gold,
Yeah, I've heard that.
and there's a reason for that. It's a decentralized store of value, could be a hedge against inflation. Think about people in countries with unstable economies or limited access to banks. For them, Bitcoin could be life-changing.
So it could give them more financial stability.
Exactly.
Yeah.
More control over their own money. Now let's look at Cardano. It's focused on building a more sustainable and inclusive future. It emphasizes governance and transparency, and that could revolutionize all kinds of things. Voting systems, supply chains, the possibilities are huge.
See, Cardano is aiming to fix some of those broken systems.
That's a great way to put it. It's about using tech to build a better world.
Hmm.
And then there's Solana with its speed and scalability. It could totally change how we think about things like decentralized finance and gaming, transactions that are almost instantaneous with super low fees. That's the kind of future Solana is building towards.
I love it. But let's be realistic for a second. What about the challenges? What could hold these cryptocurrencies back from reaching their full potential?
You're right, it's not all smooth sailing. Scalability is a big one. For crypto to be truly mainstream, you need to be able to handle massive volumes of transactions. We're talking billions, maybe even trillions, every day.
Wow, yeah. That's a lot to process.
It is. And security is another huge factor. as crypto gets more popular, it becomes a bigger target for hackers. So investing in really robust security measures is crucial, and educating people about how to protect themselves.
Right, like being careful about which platforms they use and how they store their crypto.
Exactly. And then, of course, there's regulation. Governments are still trying to figure out how to approach this whole thing. Their decisions could have a huge impact.
Yeah, regulation is a big wild card. We'll have to see how that all plays out. Well, it's clear that the future of crypto is exciting, to say the least. Full of potential, but also some big challenges. So, as we wrap up our deep dive here, what are your final thoughts? Where do you see all of this heading?
You know, I think we're at a turning point. Cryptocurrencies are challenging the old ways of doing things. They're forcing us to rethink money, value, trust. And while there will definitely be bumps in the road, I'm optimistic. I think these technologies will play a huge role in shaping the future, a future that's more inclusive, more innovative, and more decentralized.
Well said. It's an exciting time to be a part of it all. And to our listeners, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of crypto. We hope you learned something new. And maybe you're feeling a little inspired to keep exploring this amazing, rapidly changing space. Because the future is being built right now, and you have the chance to be a part of it.
That's it for this deep dive, folks. Until next time.